Today we are making the only pasta from the 4 Roman pastas that I haven't made yet on this channel, and that is alla Gricia, which is honestly one of my favorites to make. It's not necessarily my favorite to eat, but it's my favorite to make. We're going to start with rigatoni. We have the guanciale again, which we're going to do the same as last time. I'll break that down in a second. We also have some pecorino, a little bit of pepper. There can be salt added to this, but it is a very salty dish to start with, so be careful that you don't over-season. But I'm just going to cut the skin off this guanciale. I don't like the guanciale I'm able to find in the stores. It kind of has these herbs on the outside. I don't love it. If you can find it without that, go for it. But we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut it into nice little thick 1/4-inch lardons. You want to really render out the fat, so the more large size pieces you can create, the more you'll do, and then they're going to shrink and crisp as you cook them. So if you start too small, they're going to kind of shrink down to nothing, which is not the goal here. But we're going to start with a little bit of water in a pan. Similar to how I made bacon months ago, anything that has a high fat content, I like to start in a little bit of water because it'll buy you some time to break down that fat and render it out without starting to burn and crisp everything too quickly, which is very important here. Once the fat starts to render out, it goes quick. So the water, as you can see here, is helping this kind of cook. It's helping it break down, but it's stopping it from browning. It's stopping it from burning and from going too far too quickly. Exactly what I want to be doing here. After about 4 or 5 minutes, the water's gone, and you can see the oil is left, which is great. The oil won't evaporate, and the pieces here haven't burnt. They're not too brown. Exactly what I'm looking for. We're going to drop the pasta at this point. Also, that way it kind of times out nicely, but here it is after another 5 minutes. You can see it really takes off, and it really starts to brown. Those bits stuck to the bottom are totally fine, the brown. That's going to help with the sauce, but at this point, I'm going to add a little bit of pepper in too. I think it's nice to kind of bloom and toast that pepper at this point. You don't need to do this. Make sure you're also not burning it because the burnt pepper taste is kind of gross. So turn that heat down and just let this kind of mix together and become friendly with each other. It's exactly what you're looking for. And we're just going to wait till that pasta's cooked and keep this on low heat, and it'll continue rendering out nicely. Once your pasta's almost there, I'm going to grab a little bit of that starchy pasta water. You can see it's nice and kind of cloudy color. That's how you know it's good. That has that starch in it. And we're going to throw that in with the guanciale. And we're just going to break up what's stuck to the bottom of the pan. And you can see it turns this really lovely dark gravy-like color. That's just flavor. That's the bits that have stuck to the bottom. That's basically the basis of this sauce. And that's what makes it absolutely delicious. And then once your pasta's ready, we're just going to really make sure this is nice and warm still. As you can see, it hasn't really separated or anything from the starchy water. And we're just going to throw those noodles directly in. If some water comes over, that's totally fine. And once you do that, you're basically 90% of the way there. We're going to mix this together. You can see it immediately starts to coat that pasta very nice and lovely. As the pasta soaks in a little bit of that water, you can add more from your pan. That's why I keep the pot here just kind of on heat. I don't want it to go cold and you add cold water into the dish. It's also going to help you break down the cheese when you add it in. Some people don't like to do it on heat, but as long as you have enough starch, that's really not a problem. Once you get it to a good consistency and there's a good amount of water left over in there, I'm going to add some of that cheese in, and we're going to start to really mix this. Moving it back and forth, letting air come into your sauce is really important for the emulsification. You can see immediately it starts to look real nice, velvety, beautiful. This is exactly what you're looking for. Just keep kind of going for another 2 minutes. That's kind of where we were at. The pasta was just shy of al dente. Your cheese shouldn't clump. A little bit may become kind of stretchy. That's totally fine. If you're not into that, try to not get the store-bought pre-grated. There's none of the anti-clumping in it, but if you fresh grate it, it'll be a little better, but I'm totally fine with that. You'll see the end result is still great, but just kind of keep balancing it. Mixing your cheese, mixing your water, get the consistency that you're looking for. It shouldn't take you more than another 2 or 3 minutes, but really kind of move it back and forth. You want that air coming in. Emulsification is really your friend in this process, but look at that color. It's just beautiful. It's kind of a similar color to when you get one of those bourbon cream sauces or any sort of Cajun pasta, but all that coloring is literally just the guanciale fat. It's really nice. It's a really different taste. It's, as I explained last time with the 4 Roman pastas, it kind of branches off from a cacio e pepe, but to me it's a whole different world of flavor here. And it's a really, really nice dish, but at this point you're basically ready to plate this up. You got that velvetyness you're looking for. It's coating your pasta beautifully. If you want a little more cheese in, that's totally fine, but we'll top it with that. But now let's throw this onto a plate. You can see a little cheese, a little stringy came over, but that's totally fine. There's still a beautiful sauce texture to it. It's smooth, it's velvety. It's coating that pasta beautifully, but it's also not too watery. That's what you want. You don't want it to look like it's just sitting in pasta water. You want it to emulsify and become great. Top it with a little bit of extra cheese here at this point. I'm making this for lunch, so it's not a huge portion. It's also really nice for lunch because it is somewhat light also, even though it seems like it would be very rich. Top it with a little bit of fresh black pepper, and that's your dish. That's Gricia. It is delicious. It's a staple of Roman cooking. I hope I did all the Italians proud with this. As I've always said, I'm not Italian, and I try to do my best with these. But the most important part is, what does it taste like? It's hard to explain. You got to taste it to fully understand it, but it tastes like a cacio e pepe on meaty steroids. It's like a carbonara, but lighter. Definitely give this a try.